Now, the Metropolitan Police forced a protester to remove an Israeli flag hanging on the wall at Trafalgar Square, as it was an alleged violation of a heritage site. In a video posted by the campaign group Eye on Anti-Semitism, an officer instructed a protester to remove a flag from the wall near the National Gallery. The person recording the video pointed out to the officer on Saturday there were thousands of Palestinian flags here and you're concerned about one Star of David, insinuating a two-tier policing approach. Well, joining me now in the studio is Joseph Cohen, founder of the Israel Advocacy Movement. Thank you so much for joining us, Joseph. You must have been horrified when you saw this. We've been reporting on this protest for many, many weeks since the programme on October the 7th. Here at GB News, we think we've seen clear double standards in policing, clambering on war monuments, screaming anti-Semitic abuse, and now the simple act of putting a flag in a public place has garnered this response. How does that make you feel?
I mean, I think you described it correctly. It's two-tier policing, and it's outrageous. It's outrageous that this can stand. I'll give you a few more examples, actually. So a few weeks ago, an Islamist waved an Al-Qaeda flag on the streets of London. The police didn't intervene. They actually defended it online and described it as a declaration of faith. We've seen protest after protest, thousands of Palestinian flags all over the British streets, and as you rightly pointed out, they're clambering over monuments, war memorials, adorning them with Palestinian iconography. And I actually think you heard it on this show. The response from the Met Commissioner wasn't to say that you shouldn't be raising these flags. It was that there's no crime. It's not a crime to climb on statues. And that empowers. So like 2 weeks ago, at the exact same location that we just saw, Trafalgar Square, at Nelson's Column, activists climbed onto Nelson's Column and unfurled a 30-foot Palestinian flag, and the police said nothing. This is clearly an example of two-tiered policing. Now,
the Met are saying this is a heritage site and therefore there are rules around draping flags on heritage sites, which is true. However, it's back to that double standards thing, isn't it? We've seen oftentimes in these very same places Palestinian flags draped, and it doesn't seem to garner the same response. That's the point. But on the broader issue, you talked about this empowering people. How do you feel as a Jewish person in Britain now? How have things changed since October the 7th?
So I don't know a Jewish person that isn't questioning our future here. The Jews are completely integrated in Britain. We've been here for centuries. In almost every synagogue in the UK Orthodox synagogue, we actually say a prayer for the royal family and the government. Every Saturday, we're so integrated and so grateful to live in such an incredibly liberal and tolerant society. Yet, following the 7th of October, just the 1,500% rise in anti-Semitism, I mean, the police recorded it as 800% or 775% recording rise in anti-Semitism. We're looking at this. We're looking at Jews getting attacked. We're looking at genocidal chants on the streets. We're looking at the police not enforcing the law in the way that we believe it should be. And we're questioning whether we have a future here. I know I certainly struggle to see a future for my family in 30, 40 years if we continue on this trajectory.
That's a really sad thing to hear. But, you know, why do you feel like that? Is it a safety issue? Is it a case of this trajectory of travel, of seemingly the media, the police, academia, the celebrity world seems to be just taking a side where the Jewish people are feeling more and more in the shadow?
It's a safety issue. For 2,000 years, my people have been persecuted. The Holocaust is a living memory. It's a living memory. And when we hear the leaders of academia coming out and saying things like, it's not against our code of conduct in the leading universities to call for a genocide of the Jews, we take that very seriously. When we see our friends getting attacked, spat on the streets, we take that very seriously because we know where this path leads. We've been there before.
And in particular, what do you think it is about young people in particular? We saw a report out, a survey last week saying as many millennials think Hamas are freedom fighters as opposed to terrorists. Where does that mindset come from, particularly amongst young people?
I mean, it comes from political figures, it comes from the media. When you have somebody like Jeremy Corbyn describing, and hopefully I get this quote right, describing Hamas as champions of social justice, that's going to resonate with an entire generation. And sadly, there are people who are so far from events like the Holocaust that they question whether it even happened. They're 3,000 miles away from Israel, and they perceive genocidal terrorists as being champions of social justice. And we're in an age of misinformation and almost post-truth. It's just, what does my side say? And I will just follow that blindly.
Wow, it's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
It's my pleasure.
Joseph Cohen, absolute pleasure to see Joseph Cohen, founder of the Israel Advocacy Movement. Sad to hear, but nevertheless, it needs to be said.